Hey everybody, it's Anna and welcome back to my booktube channel. We are steadily progressing through the month of July. I think my city is now in our third or fourth extreme heat event, something like that. I know today is a code red, so I am actually spending a lot of today inside. I started by swimming this morning and I am going to continue by reading this afternoon with my little trusty ice pack thingy around my neck because chronically ill, disabled, lack of body temperature regulation is really not one of my favorite things about this summer, but we're making the most of it. Now, normally what I would do for the summer is figure out what my library adult summer reading program is. I absolutely loved doing library summer reading as a kid. My home library in Florida had a bunch of really awesome events that were about art and science and reading and lots of fun things. And sadly, my library that I attend right now doesn't do any programming for adults for the summer, which is really sad. They are running a really awesome kids summer reading program, which is great. So I decided that I was going to take matters into my own hands and try and seek out two things that would basically count for my adult summer reading. The first one I found out about thanks to Kathy. I'll make sure that I link her channel as well down below. She introduced me to a new channel, Brittany Loves Reading, and Brittany does a TBR game that is based around the coffee and donut shop Tim Hortons. Really enjoyed that shop, went there a lot of the time when I was living in Seattle, although now I'm definitely living firmly in Dunkin' Donuts country. I still appreciate my Tim Hortons. And so Brittany has decided to do this little weekend at Timmie's kind of miniature reading challenge that is an adapted version of what she does for her TBR game personally, but adapted so that the whole community can get involved. So this is one of those where it's kind of chill, go at your own pace. You can complete the challenges as many or as few times as you want. And the sort of guidelines and parameters are that you want to have an alliterative title, and then there was a prompt that was double, which is when you order your coffee with a double sugar and a double cream. I'm a black coffee person, but I really understand and appreciate that as a clever prompt. And that one, you want to have at least 2 letter D's in the title of the book. They don't have to be the beginning of the words. They don't have to be part of the alliteration. It just so happens that mine are when I show you what book I've decided to read. But as long as there's 2 D's somewhere in the title, you're good. And then there's another one where she says that you are supposed to do something off of this self-care prompt list. I will make sure that her video is linked if you want to do it. I'm not going to say the whole list right here, but it is actually very sweet, and I appreciate that she put that in there too, because this is supposed to be a chill and fun readathon. So I have decided that I am going to reread the first book in the Tea Shop Mysteries series by Laura Childs, which is titled Death by Darjeeling. When I was a teenager and I started getting into reading cozy mysteries, I think I found this randomly at a Barnes & Noble. Yeah, this book is from 2001, so apparently I either read brand spanking new cozy mysteries or nearly 30-year-old cozy mysteries. There's no in between. But anyway, this series follows Theodosia Browning. She is an owner of a tea shop, the Indigo Tea Shop in Charleston, South Carolina, which is one of my favorite cities. And in typical cozy mystery fashion, she is also an amateur sleuth. And let's see what happens here. Ah, yes, there is an esteemed guest who is found dead with his hands clutching an empty teacup, and of course she is the suspect because the last thing that he drank was a cup of her Darjeeling tea. Whatever shall we do? So that readathon is going to take place this weekend, which is, I believe, wait, can I count? Yes, I can. The 12th and 13th of July. So I will be hopefully reading this within the weekend. It's pretty short. I don't think it's going to take me too long to read. And I actually got a bunch of these copies used for the reread, but also because I want to actually continue on with the series once I finish. And then secondly, I also found out about Summer Book Bingo, which is, I'm holding up the bingo sheet now, created by Tiffany at Beautiful Minutia, and I was not aware of her channel until I heard about Summer Book Bingo from Alina over at Eclectic Reads. Alina is a longtime booktube friend of mine, so please go over to her channel and give her a sub. She reads lots of very different sort of topics, and we definitely have that in common. We also love our cozy mysteries, we love our crochet, and yeah, she's just always got great book recommendations. I've gotten so many good ones from her. Her library doesn't do summer reading for adults either, so that was how I found out about Summer Book Bingo, because she shared that she would be doing that instead. And as luck would have it, I kind of already started doing this at the beginning of July, so I have a couple wrap-ups to do here. So we have 4 books that I've finished so far. A couple of them are pretty short, so it's not like as dramatic as it seems. So the prompts I have so far gotten are book in a series, ocean, shortest book on your TBR, and a popular book. So we're going to start with the one that I read towards the beginning of the month and then work our way up to the present day. Sadly, there is also a DNF in here, which I will not be crossing off a prompt for, even though I made it almost halfway through the book before I decided, you know what, this is not for me. But that just didn't seem to match too well within, like, the spirit of the game. So I'm going to bring it up, mention it, but it's not counting for one of those 4. So for a popular book, I finally got a hold of The Serviceberry, Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This is a pretty short book. It was originally published as an essay, like a long essay, in a magazine. But Robin Wall Kimmerer is very well known as the author of Braiding Sweetgrass, which is one of my favorite books of all times. She is an indigenous Potawatomi botanist who writes very beautifully about the natural world around us. And in this book, she uses the serviceberry, which is not a plant that I am familiar with, but which is very important to her personally and culturally and as a scientist. And she uses this as a jumping off point to thinking about interconnection and what it would look like if we were to transform our economy instead of one of like resource extraction and wealth hoarding to gift giving and abundance and generosity and what that could look like. I think that this is an excellent book for everyone to read. I really think you should. There's something for everyone in here. But for me personally, as somebody whose professional life is environmental education, this is something that like I so wish that I could have as like a community book club or something like that at my workplace, and people could talk about it. And what I would love is, you know, to pair that with some sort of like gift giving and reciprocity as well. Because just as the plant is giving of itself to the birds and the people and all of the other creatures and beings that are supported by it in this ecosystem, so we should be doing that with each other as well. Fantastic book. This is definitely going to be one of my favorites of the year. Okay, the second book is the one that fulfills the ocean prompt, and this was a book I found kind of randomly at my library. They did a virtual book display to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws, which is a movie that I really love, but I also really love sharks. I think I'm the kind of person that when I encounter something that's like scary or frightening or unknown, I kind of want to go learn as much about it as I possibly can. But even before I had like seen Jaws and, you know, what I mean, like all the way through, not like sort of watching it between my fingers like a scaredy cat as a kid. Even before I had seen Jaws all the way through, I was fascinated by sharks. Like I said, I grew up in Florida and I got to see like baby sharks, adult sharks, this type of thing. The local high school in my town's mascot is a shark. I just think they're really amazing creatures. And so I read this book from the virtual display. It's called Shark: Why We Need to Save the World's Most Misunderstood Predator by Paul de Gelder. Paul de Gelder is a current host of Discovery Channel's Shark Week, and he is also a former diver in the Australian military, and while he was on a training exercise, he was actually attacked by a bull shark and lost 2 limbs as a result of that attack. But rather than being completely petrified to never enter the water ever again, he really wanted to learn as much as he possibly could about these fascinating animals. So he began to train to get back in the water and then to learn about sharks, swim with them, and basically be a science educator, which again is what I do professionally. Not about sharks, but that would be super cool. So from a professional perspective, I really appreciated the way that he wrote this in a very informative but approachable way. If you're a person that gets excited by cool animal facts the way that I do, or if you're a person that is excited about learning about these things but you don't have a really technical background, this is kind of the perfect book for you. This was an amazing survey over the biology of sharks, what we know about them, what sort of mysteries still remain. It introduced me to a lot of different species of sharks I was kind of unaware of before. And then at the end of the book, there are some sort of like chapters on what can we do now about protecting sharks and conserving their habitats. How can we stop like fishing of sharks and finning of them, etc. And there's a lot of resources for how to get involved in those things on the back. If you're like me, you'll probably have some things that you agree and some things that you disagree with about his recommendations in the back of the book. But I think it's worth noting that anytime somebody is making a recommendation of what we could do to help improve the environment, it's not an all or nothing game, and it's not really a purity politics thing. You don't have to do all of these recommendations perfectly 100% of the time in order to make an impact. Kind of as Lena Norm says, it's way better to half-arse doing something good, because that's better than trying to full arse and then giving up and not giving a crap at all. So, really good book. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. Next up comes my DNF. Unfortunately, this month I also DNF'd The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which is a mystery novel by Stuart Turton. I had heard a lot of really good things about this book, but I didn't really know anything about it. It came as a recommendation from my sister, and it has taken me a while to read this because for some reason in my mind, I accidentally confused it with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I read when it came out, so I assumed I had read this because it's very similar sounding and came out at around the same time. I did not. Here we are. So this is kind of like a normal mystery wrapped up inside of a time loop / Groundhog Day kind of situation. It's definitely a mystery that is more so, the mystery lies more so in like the metafiction of this book than maybe the mystery itself, you know, like the murder itself, because the main character is finding himself in this time loop where he is living the same day over and over again, but from the perspective of 8 different guests at this country house party where the murder takes place. There are apparently also some other people that are going through the same time loop. We're not really sure why. I made it almost halfway through the book before I DNF'd. So there are other people that are going through this time loop too. Some of them want to help him. Some of them want to kill him because it seems that only like one person can escape the loop, and they'll do that by solving like the whodunit of the murder. So here's the thing. I like stories about time loops and time travel, with the huge caveat that they're very difficult to pull off and do well, and this book just did not do that for me. Unfortunately, it was the kind of book where I think in the hands of a more skilled writer, I might have been more wowed by some of the clever twists and turns of it, but as it is, I was able to predict a lot of the little like plot beats coming, and the writing just wasn't really enough to keep me there even if I found parts of the plot predictable. One of the other things I really disliked about this book is that there is one character who is like incredibly fat, like obese, and has difficulty like moving around because of it. But the way that the author like describes the point of view character when he is inhabiting the fat character's body is just like it's designed to sound as grotesque and revolting as possible. And that just makes me really not comfortable or happy with reading that. Like, I obviously understand that, you know, body shaming is a real thing and that we live in a society that prioritizes like thinness over heaviness and what have you, but I can't with the like utter grotesquerie of the writing, especially in something that came out in 2017. You know, like, I think I am a little bit more inclined to acknowledge those issues, but give them a little bit more leeway if it's a really old book. But come on, guys, like, it's... Do we have to do this? Do we have to comment on, like, how disgusting somebody's body is because they're fat? Like, it just seems to me that this was also a case of using, like, lazy shorthand in writing to be like, yes, this man is grotesque because he's fat, but that's also signifying that he's very morally grotesque and he is a very morally bankrupt character. And I hate it when writers will sort of conflate a character's physical appearance or, like, traits of their body with some sort of, like, morality one way or another. I'm just not here for that. So yeah, DNF'd that book. I was kind of disappointed, but then I was just able to move on and continue with my summer reading. Okay, yes, next up was my book in a series. I read Marl Fox by Brian Jakes. This is a revisit to a series I loved as a child, but I have not read this book. This is the 10th book in the Redwall series, and I gotta be honest, I was kind of disappointed by this book. So it follows the adventures of a sort of like traveling theater troupe that comes to Redwall Abbey during a time when the population is kind of at a low ebb. There are these foxes called Marl foxes that are inhabiting a mysterious island nearby. They're trying to figure out some way to take over the abbey, whether that is by stealing treasure or kidnapping small woodland creature children for ransom. And I have to be honest, this book just did not do it for me because it really felt like Brian Jakes took a lot of elements of some of his previous books that I really liked and then combined all of them together to make this book. So it felt very much like a rehash of many of the plot beats that happen in earlier books, like the tapestry with Martin the Warrior being stolen. That happens in the first book. The island of foxes that are trying to terrorize the woodland creatures. That happened in the third book. There are some things that always show up in these books, like there's always a lot of riddles and songs. Think of like the J.R.R. Tolkien type songs, and usually the characters have to solve some sort of riddle in order to solve a mystery or find something that is missing, and that's fine. It was just so much of this was literally recycled from previous books, and it didn't work for me. I was not a fan. Okay, last but not least, we have the shortest book on your TBR, and that was All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first book in the Murderbot series of sci-fi novellas. I know I'm kind of late to the party on these. I've heard incredible things about them, and I don't know why it was that I finally decided to sit down and read them now, but oh my goodness, this was such a delight to read. This is a story that follows our self-appellated Murderbot, who is a security kind of like robot-human hybrid. The way that the robot-human line is drawn in this novella is very hazy and interesting. But anyway, Murderbot is on this expedition with a bunch of other scientists when things start to go terribly wrong, and Murderbot is the only one that really starts to put two and two together that they may be facing sabotage instead of just system malfunction. What I loved about this book was obviously like the very relatable critique of like wage slave capitalism and the desire to just completely escape into fictional worlds to not have to deal with the just annoyance of reality when reality can be very dark and terrible and you hate it. Another thing I loved about this book is that it didn't really seem very concerned with a lot of the more typical sci-fi robot or android tropes. Like Murderbot is not really that interested in becoming human, whatever that means. Although I would definitely say that this character is a person, Murderbot doesn't really care too much about imitating or becoming just like the humans around them, but are much more like inclined to say, please leave me alone, I need my introvert time to watch my entertainment feeds. And they're basically like watching dramas, soap operas, something like that they find very fun. And I know a lot of other people have talked about like the sort of gender and sexuality it's not quite representation because murder bots don't like really exist in our world, but I have seen a lot of videos where ace booktubers have talked about feeling that the representation of asexuality was very well done in this sort of sci-fi setting of it, because they never use the term, but it is pretty clear based off of context that Murderbot has no interest whatsoever in sex or sexual attraction or anything like that, and that was kind of cool. What else? Oh yeah, one of the other things I really liked about this is that Murderbot has like part human DNA parts and part machine parts, and they have like a human face, but mostly they prefer to like have their security helmet opaque and clouded over so that the humans around them can't see their face. And I thought that this was such a fascinating analog. Like what it reminded me of was like autistic masking or ADHD masking, where you are basically trying to mask your symptoms, for lack of a better word, of your own neurodivergence in order to appear more neurotypical, either to blend in or not make other people feel uncomfortable. And that definitely is a huge factor at play in this book and in Murderbot's like relationships to the other scientists, some of whom are like full-on humans, but some of whom are what they call augmented humans, and it would maybe be akin to like a cyborg, right? Something like that, where Murderbot is like mostly machine and then some clone DNA, but there are also other characters where that sort of like line between human and machine is a little bit hazy. So yeah, really loved this. Definitely looking forward to the rest of the series. The ending really opens it up to the second book, could really take us anywhere. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler to say, but I really enjoyed reading this. So that's it for now for my adult summer reading plans. If you are doing any sort of summer reading challenge, whether your library or something that you have made up yourself, I also know a lot of people do like indie bookstore challenges. I should look around and see if any of my indie bookstores are doing summer reading for adults, because that would be cool. A bunch of the ones in Seattle used to. I'm not entirely sure if the ones here do, but I'm sure I could find something. But yeah, let me know what you're up to in terms of your summer reading plans, or just summer plans generally. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more of what I do, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That way you get updated whenever I post a new video. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!